The year was 2013 when I joined my 8th grade wrestling team. I had just turned 13 as the beginning of my 8th grade year. Everyone was joining different kinds of sports and extracurricular teams. I ended up joining the wrestling team and I learned so much about the sport. I loved it. Today I've decided to talk about the great art of wrestling. I chose this topic because of how much I love the sport. I will start by telling you about the 3 different kinds of wrestling and the kind I participated in. Then I will tell you about its history, and finally I'll tell you about the professional wrestling world. First, we'll go over through the 3 different types of wrestling. We'll start with the oldest one, which is Greco-Roman. A 2018 article about wrestling, written in the Funk and Wagnall's New World Encyclopedia, stated that contestants must apply all holds above the waist using only the hands and arms, which is a distinctive feature of this type of wrestling. Unlike other types, in Greco-Roman wrestling, you cannot trip, tackle, or secure a hold on your opponent with your legs. Both fighters start in the standing position and try to get the other one to the mat for a successful takedown to score and end the match. If the takedown is unsuccessful, then the match can continue on the mat. Greco-Roman wrestling is also the type of wrestling used in the Olympics. The next type of wrestling is called freestyle wrestling. Freestyle wrestling is based on an earlier style known as catch-as, catch-can, and allows a much greater variety of holds. Unlike Greco-Roman, fighters can do holds below the waist and can use their legs for holds. If both shoulders of a fighter touch the mat at the same time, a fall is scored and the match ends. If no fall takes place during the match, the winner is chosen by the points scored during the match. The last style of wrestling is called collegiate wrestling. The style of wrestling is the kind I did in school. It was very competitive and fun. In this style, you can score a fall just by pressing the shoulders of your opponent on the mat for just 1 second. You can also score points for time advantage, which is the time you spend on top and in control of your opponent. Now I'll tell you about the history of wrestling. A 2018 article about wrestling, written in the Solemn Press Encyclopedia and cited from wrestling historian Scott Beekman, author Justin D. Garcia, PhD, states that wrestling is one of the 2 oldest sports known to humankind. Relics of history show the existence of wrestling in many early cultures, such as ancient Sumerian, Babylonian, Egyptian, Greek, Roman, and Hebrew cultures. It is also stated in the article that the earliest known written accounts of wrestling as a competitive sport date to the Mesopotamia Epic of Gilgamesh, written in cuneiform more than 4,000 years ago. And now I'll tell you about the world of professional wrestling. When it comes to professional wrestling, there are 2 types. The first kind is the stuff like WWE, which stands for World Wrestling Entertainment. And a 2017 article, Professional Wrestling, written in the Salem Press Encyclopedia, author Jack Lasky states that professional wrestling is a type of performance art that blends athleticism and dramatic storytelling to create a compelling spectacle of sport and entertainment. It's much more of a show than a sport. The second type of wrestling is the wrestling held in the Olympics and performed by the NCAA. A 2018 article about wrestling written in the Funk and Wagnall's New World Encyclopedia stated that legitimate or genuine professional wrestling was vastly popular in the U.S. from 1880 to 1920. The only way to win is to score the best 2 out of 3 in falls. We have finally reached the end of my speech. Today I've gone over 3 different kinds of wrestling and the kind I participate in, the history of the sport, and the professional world of the sport. My coach once said, "The match isn't done until you're done, until you quit," and I still believe that to this day.